schedule, location, time, and date, sending copies to the Home News Tribune, posting in the Borough Hall, and filing a copy with the Borough Clerk within 7 days following the annual organization meeting of this body. I ask you to rise now for an invocation given by Councilwoman Rasmussen, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'd like to welcome all the visitors here tonight, and I would especially like to remember Chief Rentenberg's family tonight. They had a recent loss, his mother-in-law. Our hearts go out to him and his family.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Katie, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Wallace.
Here.
Councilwoman Rasmussen.
Here.
Councilwoman Insero.
Here.
Councilman Grayzel.
Here.
Councilman Camerano.
Here.
Council President Muldoon.
Here.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to open for the agenda session.
I move that we open the agenda session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Any items from the council for the agenda session?
I would like to just mention, would there be any possibility of getting the parking spaces marked out a little clearer? I know some of the paint has worn away over the years, and I've recently noticed that people are parking in places where there aren't parking spaces, like in front of a meter, thinking they can park there. And I just think maybe we need to mark things out better so people know where they should park.
Council President, will you bring that to the attention of the
Sure.
Parking Authority?
Dorothy, just mean like in general all over town, there's certain spots that are worn, or anything in particular?
Many of the lines that you really can't see where your spot is. And then there are people that see a meter here, and then they think they can park in front of it, but it's really not a space.
Okay.
And it's just not marked well, and I've had to tell people you can't park there or you'll get a ticket. And they didn't know. They had no idea, so, you know.
Okay.
One of the things I noticed when I was up in Harrison the other day, and I thought it was quite unique, is they had striping in their crosswalks, but they also had striping in non-parking areas. And I thought it was very effective. It was just white. Obviously, you can't use other colors by the state, but I thought it was very effective. I think we ought to look into seeing if that could be done in our, not only in our crosswalks, but in the areas where there are no parking zones, to mark it out so it's very clear as to where you can and cannot park.
Great. One thing related to that is I had checked with the person on the parking authority who's kind of managing the project for the parking management plan, and I think they've been looking at the existing parking in town and the spaces and all that, so they may have some, and they're going to be giving us recommendations, or to the parking authority and then ultimately to us, so hopefully they'll touch on some of that. And because what they are trying to look at is a better way to make the public aware of where parking is, and to your point, maybe where parking is not permitted. So I'll relay that. There
are regular spots where I can just walk downtown and there'll be a car there, and sometimes I'll wait for someone to come out and I'll let them know, gee, you really weren't in a spot, because they didn't even realize, maybe they didn't get a ticket. They think they even put money in a meter that wasn't even their meter, because it was the meter of the car in front of them.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing none, could I have a motion to close?
I move that we close the agenda session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're at that point where we have a resolution to appoint a police officer, which is a very great time for us in the borough. Council President?
Mr. Your Honor, I move that resolution R 2013-158 be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And will our borough attorney please step out? And Joe, would you please come up? Mr. Officer, I should say, Officer Wenskoski, please come up. We've met a few times. And if you want anybody to come up with you, and as I said to your family, they could move anywhere they'd like to take pictures except for the seat. Okay.
I
I, Joseph Winskowski,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and the state of New Jersey
of the state of New Jersey
and the ordinances of the Borough of Metuchen,
and the ordinances of the Borough of Metuchen,
and obey all the rules and regulations
and obey all the rules and regulations
and lawful orders
and lawful orders
of the Metuchen Police Department,
of the Metuchen Police Department,
and faithfully discharge the duties of
and faithfully discharge the duties of
patrolman of the Metuchen Police Force,
patrolman of the Metuchen Police Force,
and faithfully serve the Borough of Metuchen
and faithfully serve the Borough of Metuchen
according to the best of my knowledge
according to the best of my knowledge
and ability,
and ability.
so help me God.
So help me God. Thank you.
Congratulations.
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 Congratulations. Officer, you join one of the elite forces in the state of New Jersey. You are surrounded by some very good people, some very good leadership. We wish you well and a long career here in Metuchen. And I think it will work out very well. Good things come to people who are patient. I told you that a week ago. And you've been very patient waiting for us to get this opening and to move your application and move your employment. So we're really happy to have you here. We welcome you with open arms, and we look forward to working with you in the next 20 or 30 years. Okay? And I'm going to turn it over to the chief. Chief, if you'd like to say a few words.
Well, first, I'd like to thank the mayor and council for moving forward under Officer Wiskowski. Welcome. Like the mayor said, it took a little while, but we finally got you here, and I'm very happy for you, and I wish you best of luck. Be safe, and look forward to working with you. So, thank you.
Council President, you want to say?
Just to welcome you and wish you the best of luck. You're with a great crew, as the mayor said, so we're happy to have you. Thanks.
It's great to see a number of you folks turning out. I know some of you are on duty and patrol. Mika, nice hair. Nice hair. He was in the chair before me this afternoon, so, but, well, I have a little bit more to work with, but, we, family, congratulations. Best of luck. We will see you a number of times. I'm now going to open the meeting to the public for any comments or questions. Hearing none, I'm going to close that section of the meeting. I think so too.
Didn't state her name.
Okay, can we go
Right.
move to the,
Consent?
yep.
Okay, Your Honor, I move that consent agenda items 5 through 9 be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we have the reports of the council. Council President?
Mayor, I don't have a report tonight.
Okay, that was quick. Councilman Wallace?
No report, Your Honor. My commissions aren't meeting this month.
Okay. Let's see, Councilwoman Rasmussen?
You know I always have a report.
Absolutely.
The Shade Tree Commission met, and we're still trying to promote our Tree of Life program. For $275, you can memorialize any event, and a tree will be planted in a place you specify if possible, and it will be recorded on the plaque that is displayed at Borough Hall. Also, the Shade Tree Commission had a hand in amending the land use ordinance. I'm very proud to say that the Shade Tree Commission brought some ideas, and maybe later on when we get that passed, I'll discuss exactly what it was. And the Youth Services Board has a really big night tomorrow. It's National Night Out. It is from 6 to 8:30 at the Friendly's parking lot, and there will be fun and games for the kids, and it will be a great family night. Also, September 26th is Recovery Month celebration. Please come and hear some accounts of personal triumph over addiction and family perspective on living with an addict. It's always a very popular event. Also, October is going to be Overdose Awareness Month, and we will be hosting local clergy at our presentation, and we will assist them with strategies to use when counseling addicts and their families during an overdose situation. The Environmental Commission met, and we discussed the recycling situation. We would like to develop a program to present to citizens and to the schools, and maybe get some brochures from the DEP to distribute during the fair in October. And my final thing is, please patronize our businesses in Metuchen, buy chamber gift certificates. That helps keep our money local, and it helps to grow our economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Insera?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a short report. The Metuchen Seniors is Metuchen Seniors Inc., which is the fundraising arm for the Senior Citizen Center, is selling $5 tickets for the Boss Cobb's Gala preview at the Woodbridge Mall this Thursday, August 8th from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. So if you would like to check out this new store, which is in Woodbridge, the $5 ticket will go towards Metuchen Seniors Inc. and will help support the Senior Center. Metuchen Seniors Inc. is also having their 20th annual luncheon at Kitty Keepwell Camp on Sunday, September 29th at 1 p.m. The requested donation is $25, and people can get information about that at the Senior Center as well. The Metuchen Chamber of Commerce would like to remind everyone that there's no fall garage sale this year. There hasn't been one. There's just one in the spring. And they are taking registrations, however, for the 50th Annual Country Fair, as Councilwoman Rasmussen mentioned, which is Saturday, September 5th. This year, the theme is celebrating 50 years of the Metuchen Country Fair, a golden jubilee. It's been running for 50 years, which is quite an impressive achievement for Metuchen, I think. And I think it should be probably one of the best fairs we've ever had. The forms to register are on the Chamber's website, metuchenchamberexchange.com. And also, I think a lot of people know this by now, but the Chamber has a new executive director, a very nice woman from town named Nicole Chinchar, who was promoted. Angela Sielski, after a couple of years of great service to the Chamber as executive director, is stepping down, but will still be involved with the town. Nicole is a Rutgers grad and a former Rutgers employee who returned this spring to work at the Chamber after spending a few years at home with her kids who are at Campbell, and she's known by a lot of people in town, and we wish her the best of luck in her new position. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilman Grazel?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to remind the public that on Thursday, August 15th, the Outdoor Arts Council Summer Concerts will begin. They're being held on August 15th, 22nd, 29th, and then on September 1st. Each of the concerts starts at 7:30 at the Metuchen Senior Center parking lot. There is no fee. It's a free concert. The first group on August 15th is the Phil Jazz Orchestra. So I'd encourage everyone to come out, bring chairs, and support this program. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Camerano.
Thank you, Your Honor. The library board is actually meeting as we speak, which is why I was a couple of minutes late tonight. We are meeting with the interim library director, who started a few days ago. Most of you may recall, Melody Kokola, the director, did retire as of August 1st. So we are going to begin the search for a new director. We have a large number of resumes and a lot of interest in the job, so we have a subcommittee that is looking at that right now. The pool seems to be running very well this summer. I have not gotten any complaints, which is a good sign, and things seem to be on board, other than from the council president.
I've actually received some compliments, so.
The staff and the board have done a very good job at looking for ways to improve it, and I think for a number of years now, it's been running. It seems to get better and better every year.
Right.
So I'm happy to report that that's fine. One other item I have unrelated to my committees, and I didn't want to raise it tonight because I didn't want to kind of step into the rain on the parade of our new officer, but when I got back from vacation, I was approached by a resident of the borough telling me a story that their father had a heart attack while they were out jogging at the St. Joe's track. And when the officers responded, there was no heartbeat. Patrolman Westover was able to revive him through the use of a defibrillator and also by performing CPR until the rescue squad arrived. The resident was thrilled that the response time was so fast. The doctor in the emergency room informed them, had there not been a defibrillator, his father may not have made it. The individual is now currently going through rehab and seems to be making a pretty good recovery. And I know we've done this in the past, but at some point, I think it would be appropriate if we bring Patrolman Westover in and maybe honor him for the service. The one thing I found out, and I know we've had a number of these, but I think we're up to 6 people who we have revived with the use of defibrillators.
Yeah,
It's a pretty impressive number.
At least that many.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty impressive number, and I have to say, in all the investments we make in the law and public safety arenas, in the EMS, fire, that's probably the best investment we've ever made, and we should all be very happy we did it. The individual seems to be making a recovery, and maybe as we've done in the past, we could have him come in as well, if he's interested.
Yep, Council President, as the liaison, could you arrange that for one of the meetings in September? Okay? I think it's great that we bring him in and honor him and recognize our officers and for the job that they do. A lot of people don't understand or take that for granted, but it's the equipment and the training and knowing how to react and do the right thing at the right time.
And the quick response time.
And the quick response time, which we in Metuchen are very proud of.
And better than New York City. If you've been watching the news lately, every week there's complaints about how long it takes the EMS and things to get there in New York.
Better than some of our surrounding communities. Yes.
Mayor, I just wanted to ask Councilman Camerano a couple of questions.
Sure.
Are each of our officers and patrol cars equipped with a defibrillator, or are there certain cars and certain officers who have the equipment and the training?
I believe every car.
Every car, and
Every car.
each officer is trained in how to use it?
Yes.
And the other question I want to ask the councilman, what is the process going to be for selection of a new librarian? Is there a time frame, and how's that person going to be selected?
The library board has established a committee of the board. We are looking at a time frame probably 2 or 3 months out to bring in a new director. In the meantime, we have an interim director who is a retired librarian who she's there part-time to evaluate the needs and situation, and she's also participating in some of the screening process for the candidates. But there is a subcommittee of the board. In fact, they're meeting as we speak to kind of whittle down the list of candidates. We have some issues there that we hope to address through the process, and we don't want to rush into hiring a new candidate. I will tell you that the interim director is not a candidate to be the director, so it's kind of, she has some independence in the process because she's a retired librarian. She's not interested in working full-time as a librarian again, nor could she, I don't think, with the pension laws. But probably 2 months, maybe as long as 3. We want to get it right rather than hurry. So, and if anybody has any concerns or input, let me know, or you can let Liz Waldron, the chair of the board, know as well.
Thank you.
Okay, Dennis, do you have any report?
Mayor, I have no report.
Dennis, could you just elaborate before, or you want to do it when we get to the introduction of the ordinance to clarify things for people on the auction?
Okay. What you actually, I'll clarify actually two things on the agenda
Okay.
for tonight, and I'm going to let Chris and Jim do the second ordinance. The first is the Sping resolution. The ABC has issued a 4th amended order permitting us to, or permitting the Borough of Metuchen to consider the renewal application. However, the license is, remains suspended pending the license being transferred to a bona fide third party. The 4th amended order advises both the Borough of Metuchen as well as Sping, Inc., that this will be the last extension that they will give. So you will be, if you pass the resolution, you'll be extending the time frame and renewing the liquor license until June 30th, 2014, to which they have until to transfer the liquor license. They will then come back before you on the application for transfer, which you would consider, as well as the ABC would consider as well. The other aspect is the ordinance. It's 2013-13, and that's an ordinance authorizing the Borough of Metuchen to sell and convey borough-owned property not needed for public use located at Block 33, Lots 1 and 2, and Block 33, Lots 2301, 2401, and 2501. What, if the borough is going to sell property that it owns, an ordinance is required to be passed with a first reading and then a second reading. This is the authorization to sell the property. It's not an authorization to sell the property to a specific person. It's only to authorize the sale at an open public auction. The ordinance also provides that although I mentioned 5 different lots, the sale is going to be for 2 properties. 2 of the lots are going to be required to be merged, as well as 3 of the lots. So there'll be 2 separate properties that would be auctioned off. After the auction, it would then come back to the mayor and council for approval of the sale to whoever the highest bidder is. Or you have the ability to reject either one of them. In the meantime, we are going to consult with the tax assessor on a minimum bid, which we would bring to you at the next council meeting to pass a resolution setting forth the date of the public auction, as well as the terms and conditions of the sale, as well as, a minimum bid, if you so wish.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that at this time?
I was just going to ask if maybe Bill could tell us where they are located, so this way the public will know where we're talking about.
I believe one is on Waltham,
Waltham
and one at Homestead.
Right. Okay. Any other questions about that introduction of the ordinance? Okay. Bill, do you have a report?
Yes, Mayor, briefly, the engineer is in the final stages of completing the plans and specifications for the pump station repairs. Both Fred Hall and I have reviewed them, so we're hoping to set a date soon, and we'll be out to bid, and we'll have that project behind us. Fortunately, we have not had any problems. We did have number 2 pump go down for a while, and if you were over there, you may have seen a bypass pump operating. That has since been removed. Number 2 has been repaired, and we're looking forward to getting all the valve work done. We can set the 3rd pump, and then that should be good for many years to come.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of brief items. One, I received a resignation from Sherry Rose Rubin from the zoning board because she accepted a job which is in conflict for the meeting times for the zoning board, so I will be recommending somebody in September to replace her. Just a reminder that tomorrow is...
We won't accept it.
Well, she took...
She does a good job.
She does do a good job, but she had the ability to
I'm
take a
kidding.
class at night, teaching on that Thursday night, and so there's a direct conflict. Just a reminder that tomorrow is First Night or America's Night Out. It starts at 6 in the Friendly's parking lot. There will be photos with police, fire, EMS, face painting, tattoos, sidewalk painting, balloons, games, rides, giveaways, and one of the sponsors is Target, so we want to acknowledge that, plus the Friendlies in donating their parking lot. The other item I have is that I have established an ad hoc committee, a bipartisan committee of former Republican and Democratic council members to review the stipends paid for the mayor and the council, and they'll be reporting back to the council sometime in the fall. And that concludes my report.
We move on to resolution. New
Yep.
business consent.
Yep.
I move new business consent agenda items 14 through 26 be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I'd like to, on the record, please, that I'll abstain from number 2013-52.
Dash 152?
52.
152, I'm sorry.
Okay. I
I'll abstain
understand it.
from vote on that.
Okay. Would you note that, please?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Bill resolution?
I move that the bill resolution in the amount of $5,695,359.73.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have the appointment of 2 council members to the Finance Committee, Councilman Ron Grazel and Councilman Pete Camerano. I think the council has to approve that. So can you...
I move.
I
Oh,
I
are you-
guess I moved it,
Oh.
and then, I guess
Second.
you just...
Okay, you move.
You make the appointment, then there's a motion.
Okay,
for
then make
consent.
a motion.
Motion to approve.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve the appointment to the Finance Review Committee.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we have an introduction of an ordinance, and we have our planner and our zoning officer here. Why don't we introduce it, and then we could get the summary, okay? And get the information.
I motion that ordinance number 2013-12 be introduced and taken up on first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Katie, would you read the ordinance by title only?
2013-12, an ordinance to amend the land development ordinances of the Borough of Metuchen.
I motion that the ordinance be passed on first reading, published according to law, and a public hearing set down for...
September 3rd, 2013.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
And now I'm going to ask, before we go to the roll call vote, I'm going to ask our planner and zoning officers to give us some information and what this ordinance does.
Sure. We provided a detailed itemized memo that sort of led you through everything. So let me give you the overview. This ordinance, the land development ordinance, the bulk of the text in here is more than 25 years old. Any zoning and land development ordinance is a living, breathing document. Chris is the administrator. He deals with it every day. It's something that actually gets touched and used on a pretty regular basis, considering all the regulations in the municipality. and it affects everybody because everybody lives somewhere or has property or is a business owner somewhere. What we're recommending here are a series of what I would really term as minor adjustments. It's a partial tune-up. It would be great to go and deal with more, and in fact, when we looked at this, there are other things that you could do, but this is by no means, despite the length of what you're seeing, a complete overhaul of the ordinance. So we did go in and focus on trying to hit some of the critical issues that really needed to be updated. And periodically in a living, breathing ordinance, you need to do that. And so there was a zoning code subcommittee that consisted of the chairman of the planning board and the zoning board, the planner, the zoning officer, the planning and zoning board attorney, and the borough engineer. And we went through and basically culled from that what we felt were the most critical issues that really needed to be picked up in terms of the following categories. Housekeeping, and there are a number of these things in here really will help Chris with more effective administration on a daily basis, as well as there were certain provisions that had been either relocated during past codification and recodification processes by the publisher. As in many cases, we don't get the new ordinance and be looking for a provision, and they moved it. There was some logic in what they did, but it didn't always land where or where it was originally intended. And then there were some other provisions that we discovered had been just appeared to disappear during some of the codification, recodification. So part of the housekeeping was really going back and catching any of those that had occurred during past processes. In addition, the Zoning Board of Adjustment sends you an annual report where they highlight issues and concerns that they have as they deal with the ordinance in terms of the variance caseload. And so a number of the issues in here really come from the Zoning Board's requests. It's not everything that they've been highlighting during their annual reports over the past few years, but it's many of, I'll call the top line, most critical issues. And then last, Chris, as the zoning officer, is on the front lines of the permitting and review process. And so a number of the suggestions really come from his dealing with the ordinance day to day and dealing with applicants. And so there are provisions in here, to summarize, that will make it easier to open a business in the borough. And by the way, the ordinance has been revised time after time over the years to do that. There are provisions in here to clarify definitions on a few issues, and also addressing some terminology issues. Not all, because you'd basically be looking at a complete overhaul. We're adding flexibility for homeowners that are proposing additions and accessory structures, particularly on corner properties. And that's been one of the things that the zoning board has reported in their annual reports. They've really struggled with is they've had more and more corner lot applications before them over the years. And so some of the provisions in here would take things that the zoning board has figured out how they're going to deal with a corner lot that has 2 front yards, and it's always the side street where people want to put that second fence wrapping the property. And so there's more flexibility that will actually save some people from having to go for variances by what's been suggested, and just sort of a minor fine-tuning. Along with the fences, there's some provisions like that for walls, sheds, air conditioning units, and generators, which with the storms of recent years are becoming an increased issue. We never saw or never contemplated 25 years ago. People weren't putting generators in their front yards, something that's much more common today on small lots. And then last, while it's worth noting that some of the overall text is large, a lot of that is just procedural. Dennis can explain when you go in and change one word and it's repeated in several sections, you have to strike out the whole section. In other cases, we're moving sections from one part to the other. There's not a lot of new policy in what's in here. It's really housekeeping, some minor fine-tune refinements, and that pretty much gives you an overall summary of what's in here.
Chris, would you like to add anything?
Other than going through the specific sections, if you want to go through them, I can answer them. But I think Jim did touch upon everything. The critical topic that he had discussed was the fact that this is a refinement. No means are we adding sections of code where we really have to go through. This is a lot of review patterns I've seen through the last 4 years I've worked as a zoning officer. of the Borough of Metuchen, and I see a lot of patterns through the history of reviewing older approvals by the zoning board and planning board, and trying to capture those consistencies and patterns and put it into ordinance form. That way, it's a little bit more efficient for my office to review and approve applications, and to correct a few things and just make it more streamlined effort. The issue of the change of use, it's been addressed a number of times for the last 20 years. Hopefully, this is a step in the right direction as well. And the corner lot issue in many historic towns is it's a big problem to deal with, and I think we addressed it in a pretty comfortable manner that the zoning board would be good with. Obviously, the zoning board chairperson and the planning board chairperson were involved in this process to just to make sure that they are comfortable with what we're doing, and it's a pretty good effort.
Right. This culminates, I think, like a 2 to 3 year process.
Yes.
Taking the zoning reports at the end of the year, and working with the zoning officer and both the chair people from both committees and the planner, engineer, as Jim said, and the attorneys for both groups. Now it's the same attorney, but before it was not. Are there any questions from anybody? Yes, sir.
I just had a couple of questions about the Technical Review Committee. And I'm obviously a newer councilman, so I may be asking some basic questions that my colleagues already know. But as I understand the genesis of the Technical Review Committee, and I may be erroneous in my understanding, is it was originally set up to provide a shortcut way to provide expeditious process of applications to avoid a full-fledged planning board application. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but apparently you've identified some problems with the Technical Review Committee and you're trying to fix it. I was wondering if you could kind of explain a little bit about what the problem is and how things are going to change.
Right. Well, let me go back. The history of the TRC was to really put a pre-application review process in place before things ever got to the planning board. And then over the years, there were certain administrative approvals that we shifted to the zoning officer that basically ended up before the TRC. So a lot of the change of use, for instance, all change of use used to go to the planning board. Then a number of the classifications went to the TRC in lieu of the planning board with a recommendation. And there still are a number of site plan waivers.
Can you translate what you just said so maybe the public can understand?
Sure. There are some basic things that occur in terms of a change in tenancy in a building, where you're going from one commercial use to another commercial use, both of which are permitted. Decades ago, that would be required to go for a minor site plan approval at the planning board. We created a system whereby that could be administratively approved, and many of those matters were sent to the Technical Review Committee. Actually, what we're suggesting here is that some of those matters should really just rest at the zoning office desk and not even have to go through that process unless there are issues involved with it. And by the way the procedure works, if the TRC is reviewing not just change of use, but also certain minor site plan amendments, somebody's doing fairly small changes on some things on their property, and we have the ability to classify it as a minor site plan, deal with it there, and then a recommendation in writing is provided to the planning board. And in the more than a decade that we've been using that process, well, the planning board has the ability with a supermajority vote to challenge or call any TRC approval before the full board. It's never happened because we've basically streamlined the process to make it more user-friendly, particularly for business applicants, so that they're basically not being nickeled and dimed by minor provisions to end up before the full board, where oftentimes an application could cost you more money. If you're a corporation, you have to be represented by counsel. Cost you more money than sometimes the physical improvements. So the TRC ended up picking up a lot of those duties over the years, in addition to pre-application review, sort of being an informal vetting process before you appear to the board. There's lots of suggestions that are made. Applicants often will change or adjust their plans based on TRC recommendations.
But Jim, it sounds like even those cases where it's been streamlined, that maybe the issue could be dealt with by Chris or maybe the TRC. I think I heard you say the planning board still ultimately has to approve that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, TRC will issue recommendations to the planning board that basically get the planning board gets a chance to look at them and vote on them, and if the majority of the planning board differed with the TRC, they could say, for instance, that change where a restaurant's going in, I'm very concerned with venting and smells, and we think we should have it pulled to the planning board for a full review in front of the public. They have the ability to do that.
Is that a simple majority?
I believe it was written as a supermajority of the planning board.
What happens now is that there's a recommendation. For example, I'm going to use Mona Lisa when it came in. It went to the TRC. They met for a very short period of time. A resolution was drafted by the TRC to the planning board, and then it was put on the agenda and it was adopted because it was a recommendation of the TRC. Instead of going through a whole process of changing, I think it was a print shop before that, to coming in with an attorney and a planner and, engineer, and going through the whole process, it was dealt with in TRC in half hour.
Yeah, typically, TRC, minor site plan meetings, they take about between 20 to 45 minutes, and it is a subset of the planning board.
So how does that change now that you've implemented these new procedures? That's what I don't quite have a handle on.
Procedurally, nothing is really changing except for certain changes of uses. Like, for example, a business that is currently retail, say a sales store, and they want to change into a hair salon. It's permitted as of right. However, it's a change of use according to the building code. That's how the ordinance reads now. That would have to go to TRC, go through the 20 and 45 minutes. I would write a letter on behalf of the TRC, write it to the planning board, following meeting, planning board acts on it. Any questions are raised, we can answer at the meeting because some members of the planning board are on TRC. What I'm proposing on behalf of the zoning code subcommittee is that we waive that requirement for really simple changes of use, such as what I described, a retail store to a hair salon. We're trying to cut the red tape. There's really no need for additional review, except for what I should be doing, and what I have been doing, is making sure the storefront is in good repair when it does change over to a new business. There's no reason for a change like that to go to TRC for a really, really minor change of new owner, really.
When an applicant currently goes before the TRC for a change of use, is there a compulsory inspection that has to take place?
Yes, I do my inspection. Sometimes the planner and the engineer will provide, if I ask them to provide their input, but generally I provide that inspection, but the whole application has to be reviewed by the committee.
So what's going to happen to that inspection now that you have this new procedure?
That will still be done by my office.
Okay.
And it's just in that case to actually use the case the mayor referenced before, when we had the Mona Lisa application, that was becoming a restaurant. So there were issues about venting and things of that nature we asked about. There also were parking waivers there that in many towns would have been parking variances. And we looked at that closely. There was sufficient parking behind, and so the TRC really was comfortable with making a recommendation that although they were deficient by the code in parking, and there was sufficient parking, there was shared parking because of the office uses next door under the same ownership. In the end, it didn't meet the letter of the code, but it was effectively provided for sufficiently. Anybody that went there never saw a parking problem. There's also some same thing with signage. There were some signage waivers that the TRC waived in on, allowing that mural, for instance, on the side of the building.
So what's going to be left of the function of the TRC?
TRC would still actually see that application because of the nature of those waivers. We would still take it through because we, there's still a process, so that there's some logic. What we're also trying to do, though, is actually bring back to the original function of the TRC, which was a pre-application review. We're trying to bring all applicants before the planning board into it. The applicants right now, it's a voluntary process. They can choose to go or not go. We recommend that everybody goes because it often will save you time on some issue with the board. Quite honestly, we've had some problems where applications get to the board and they really should have gone through the TRC process. We've heard at the planning board and even the zoning board. I really wish this had gone to TRC. You should have dealt with, those issues should have been dealt with at the TRC. try to make that happen so that they're not tying up the board's important time dealing with things when an applicant
Yeah, one of the issues I've heard from zoning board members is a problem of people not going to TRC, getting some guidance on, changing or modifying their application. They come to the zoning board, and then they're expecting the zoning board to, what will you approve, rather than here's our application, what we want to do. And so the zoning board spends more time basically negotiating what, instead of hearing an application, they spend more time, and that ends up to be more costly for the applicant anyway, because they have the professionals there and our professionals there, and they're paying more money. So we're trying to cut red tape, we're trying to alleviate some things. Some things are going to be in Chris's hands for like approval of fences and things like that, which would have to come to one of the boards. He could just outright approve some of the fences now, instead of going through this process where you have to come to a board and notify people within 200 feet and go through that whole thing. So I think it's not perfect, but it's trying to eliminate some of the challenges to our residents.
Thank you.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I have a couple of questions on TRC. And before I ask the questions, I would like to say I fully support taking some of those decisions and returning them or putting them properly within the hands of the zoning officer. Very often, we have issues that seem like it would be really simple for the zoning officer to take a look at and make a determination based on the ordinance, and we move on, that right now we can't do. So
Yes.
I love that part of the ordinance. I do have a problem with the TRC. Is it public body? Do they meet in public meetings?
It is a public hearing, it's not noticed. There is an agenda, it is open, the door is open, they meet right
It's
behind.
held in the back room,
Yeah.
but certainly a member of the public is not going to go in that back room. I happened to walk in one day and I was like, what's that? I don't know why they can't meet out here. There was nobody in the chamber. And I have a problem with the fact that it's not noticed, because quite frankly, the TRC, when they get into some of these issues, is establishing policy, and I've expressed this to you before. And very frequently, it's policy without input from the public, and it's policy without input from the governing body. Now, I know it goes to the planning board in those cases, but I think in some cases, you're setting a direction for a developer, whether it's a minor issue or not. You're setting the tone and direction almost by saying, this is what we want. So they go in that direction when indeed it's not being done in a truly public forum. And I have some concerns about that, and I've expressed that to you before. I know people have another shot to come in, or have a shot to come into the planning board, but at that point, you've already given the applicant the direction as to where you'd like to see it go. And I think, Jim, as you pointed out, the planning board hasn't, in 10 years, rejected a TRC recommendation. Did I understand that correctly?
We've modified a few times.
They've modified it a few times.
And I do have a real problem with the supermajority. With all of what I just said, taking all that into consideration, I did not realize that they have a simple majority. I will tell you that I had a hard time finding out who the members of the TRC were. In fact, I had to call Bill, and he got the information for me. It's not available on the website. There's very little reference to it. And because it does set the initial direction, I think we really need to look at that process.
Can we move the meetings out here?
That certainly can be done, it's more a procedural thing. I'm a little
But
concerned about the
even
notice.
or even, I question whether or not the TRC really has a responsibility to set the initial direction. And I'm going to be candid with you. You guys made it sound really nice, easy, smooth line. I've probably gotten more complaints about the TRC process in the time I've been on the council from applicants than I have from the zoning or planning board. Candidly, it's gotten better, and you've done a great job making it better, but there are a number of times I've received complaints about the cost, the process, and everything else. And I really think, and this is separate, I think we need to look at the role and the function of the TRC going forward and whether or not we want to keep it.
If I may offer, the part of the cost is being addressed by this ordinance change. For example, a change of use application, as in the case of a retail store to a new restaurant, that will still require change of use approval. The fee, the escrow fee, is being cut in half from $1,000 to $500. For an application where you need to get a sign waiver, I cannot approve that administratively as pursuant to the code. Should someone want a waiver for signage, instead of paying $1,000 for escrow, it's now $250. So part of that process is being dealt with in this ordinance change, particularly in the zoning fee.
And the escrow, particularly on minor applications, is a real sore subject with people. When you have to put $1,000 up, in some cases they won't have to anymore because of this ordinance.
Yes.
But that's been a very difficult area for some residents. I just think going forward we really need to look at it. And in the short term, I think the meetings should be at least public, noticed, held in a public forum, and information about the TRC put on the borough website so people know it exists, who the members are, and what the function is.
Okay. I would agree with that. I don't know how we would address that, whether we would do that, I mean, not through this ordinance, but some other ordinance, because I get a lot of questions about the TRC, and I really don't understand it myself fundamentally, and I couldn't answer who's on it, and I really still don't understand exactly how it functions. So I would imagine that members of the public who have to go through the process could benefit from that kind of information.
And I do agree with you, Councilman, that we should go forward and address that separately, but I don't want to let it fall off the radar.
Okay.
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes.
It has to do with something, it looks like it was removed from the code, applicability and design standards for single-family and two-family dwellings. And I think I remember when this was discussed a number of years ago on page 39. Can you talk about that?
It was actually moved.
Oh, it was just moved to another
It was
section.
moved to another section.
Oh, okay, good.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
that was easy.
One other
Is
question.
this yours?
No. Oh, yes, yes.
Just one
Yes.
other procedural question. I know we got a summary of the changes provided for us, which is great. It really was helpful because as you go through the actual ordinance, it's very difficult to track. Is that something that's available on the website with the packet or with the ordinance, or can we make that available to people so they actually have a plain language understanding of what's going on?
Yeah, I think I'll do one final pass, and then I'll give it to the borough clerk and see if we can get it online.
Okay.
Okay. That's a very good suggestion.
And if
Any-
I may just make
Yeah.
a comment, just to jump in, I mean, it may seem a little overwhelming, and that has to do with my portion. When we make a change, I mean, even if it's a change of a word in a section of an ordinance, we included the entire ordinance in order for the public as well as the mayor and council to be able to fully comprehend what the change is. There are some towns that just go through and just say, here are the changes, cite to a specific section, and just say, change the word from shall to may. And the public nor the council doesn't always have the flavor of all the changes. So there are a number of ordinances that go on for a couple pages that the only thing we've changed is the word caliper, and as you can see that's the reason behind the length of the ordinance.
Any other questions from council members? Councilwoman?
Yes. I just wanted to ask, under 110-128 standards, you added H, replacement of dead plantings. That's actually something brand new, correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Right? Under 110-128 standards, H, replacement of dead plantings,
That's being added.
that's brand new. I just wanted to comment that this is something that came out of the Shade Tree Commission. One of our members had noticed, during their walking around town, that new construction plantings seemed to start to fail after a very short amount of time, and some of the plantings died. And what happens, I believe, is that now the homeowner would be required to replace it because that's part of getting the CFO, correct, Chris?
Effectively, yes.
Right. So what we did was I met with that member and we went to the people's homes and asked if we could inspect the shrubbery, and we kind of dug around it and found out that they were improperly planted. Some weren't even taken out of pots. So I am just very happy that when I went to see Chris and explained the situation to him, that he decided to codify this, and this is really consumer protection legislation that they're doing here, and I just think it's very good that you took this situation and helping our residents.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Katie, we have a roll call for
Counsel-
voting on introduction right now.
Yes. Councilman Camerano?
Yes.
Councilman Grazel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Insero?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rasmussen?
Yes.
Councilman Wallace?
Yes.
Council President Muldoon?
Yes.
Okay, so we will visit that and have a public hearing on September 3rd.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay?
Okay, next one, I motion that ordinance number 2013-13 be introduced and taken up on first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Katie, would you read the ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 2013-13, an ordinance authorizing the Borough of Metuchen to sell and convey borough-owned property not needed for public use located at Block 33, Lots 1 and 2, and Block 33, Lots 23.01, 24.01, and 25.01, as shown on the tax map of the Borough of Metuchen by open public sale at auction.
I motion that ordinance be passed on first reading, published according to law, and a public hearing set down for,
September 3rd, 2013.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
This is a roll call vote.
Councilman Camerano?
Yes.
Councilman Grazel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Insero?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rasmussen?
Yes.
Councilman Wallace?
Yes.
Council President Muldoon?
yes.
I'm going to now open it to the public for any questions or comments. Hearing none, we'll close that section of the meeting.
I motion for adjournment.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.